All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the September meeting of the Mycological Association of Washington, D.C. I'm Elizabeth Hargrave. I'm the club president. I'm going to do a little intro, talk about some club news and a little bit of fungi in the news. Mitch has some photos for the virtual ID table to talk about, and then Christian Schwartz is our main event with a talk about mushroom bioregions of the US. But I'm going to kick it off first with a bunch of photos from our foray that we just had this weekend in Sequanota, at Camp Sequanota in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. Almost 100 people turned out, somewhere in the high 90s. Lots of walks. We found lots of edible mushrooms. It was another bumper crop of black trumpets in particular, and had camp food most meals, but a special banquet meal by Chef Julian on Sunday night. And for me, the star of it was this cheesecake with candied chanterelles on top. It was amazing. And lots of volunteers helping prep all those mushrooms, and the food itself is quite a group effort. Had a bunch of workshops. Megan Romberg taught some people about dyeing with mushroom dyes. Zay talked about cultivation. Saranella did another microscope workshop. We did a night walk with UV lights, looking for things that fluoresce in UV light, as well as looking at bioluminescent fungi. We saw the jack-o'-lanterns glowing again this year. And we had our first annual costume show and talent show. I will let people in the chat, I'll give you a minute to see if you can name the 7 species of mushrooms that are represented by the costumes in this photo. It was a lot of fun. People really stepped up and put themselves out there, and it was just a great time. All right. We've got some Massospora here on the cicada. We had a cordyceps. We had a shaggy mane. I think this wig was originally intended as a lion's mane, but the winner of the photo contest last year was a mushroom that I don't remember that looks just like this and was on a jigsaw puzzle that people were working on. So Susie changed on the fly to be that mushroom. And who can tell what this is? They're the wine caps. And Megan Romberg, our wonderful MC, was corn smut.
That's amazing.
But the serious business was that we had on the display tables, there were many rows of these rectangular tables. We had 272 species that people had collected, as Mitch recorded on his sort of checklist that he keeps track of as everything comes in. And Stephen Russell was there. He's got an organization called Mycota that is doing large-scale DNA sequencing. He took 600 samples for his project to sequence. So that species list might go up depending on what he finds from some of that sequencing. We were asking people to put their observations on iNaturalist, and as of when I checked this morning, we had over 1,000 observations in the project for Sequanota this year, with 43 people having uploaded their pictures, and iNaturalist counted them as belonging to 248 species.
Now up to 261.
Oh, 261. All right. Annie was sick this year, but keeping tabs on us from home by checking and IDing people's iNaturalist observations. So it was fun because even during the foray, things were getting upgraded to research grade as people in other places were checking them. If you want to look at all the pictures that people posted of their mushrooms, you can go to the project on iNaturalist. It's Moss Sequanota Foray 2023. Some beautiful stuff in there. These 15 were the most common 15, but Annie and I were chatting before. She was like, oh, you should have shown like the least common 15 that we found. But they're all mixed in there too. Including Stephen found some psilocybe this year that I don't remember anyone ever having found before on the grounds of Camp Sequanota. So that was kind of fun. And of course, there's just lots of time to hang out and be social and get to know other members of the club. So it was a great time. And I hope folks will save the date for Labor Day weekend next year to come join us. Now nearer term stuff to go over that we have coming up. The next monthly meeting, Zoom meeting, will be the first Tuesday in October, as usual. Oh, this has the wrong date on it. September 9th, next weekend, is the Kennett Square Mushroom Festival up in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. For those of you who don't know, that is like the mushroom producing capital of North America. A lot of the grocery store mushrooms that you buy will be out of Kennett Square. And they have like a street festival next weekend up there. Tom McCoy, if you look on our website, has organized a foray at Ridley Creek State Park in the morning, which is very close to where the mushroom festival is. So folks are going to meet up at Ridley Creek State Park, go look for some wild mushrooms, and then go over to the street festival and celebrate cultivated mushrooms and all things fungal. If you have questions, I'm sure Tom would be happy to answer them because he has been to that event several times. I've never made it up there. Maybe I'll go next weekend. Who knows? So that is September 9th, not October 9th. Sorry about that. And then next month, October 15th, is our other big annual event, other than Sequanona, is here in Wheaton, Maryland at Brookside Gardens. We do a mushroom fair where folks from the club come out, and we also get just a lot of people from the general public, because people go to Brookside Gardens for a nice walk on a Saturday afternoon. So put that on your calendar. It's a fun event. Just like the tables that I showed at Sequanona, we do the same thing there. So we'll have forays the day before, and people will bring mushrooms out. And we'll do walks right there on the grounds of Brookside and Wheaton Regional Park, and bring mushrooms back for the table. So it'll be a lot of stuff that you can look at hands-on. And Tom McCoy is also organizing that. So I think he has some other things in store that we'll tell you about by email, I'm sure. October 22nd, April organized a brewing event up at a brewery in Baltimore. It's sold out, but if you go on our website, you can find info. And if you're really interested, you could get on the waiting list for that. And then November 15th, I'll just put it out there, is a deadline for this year's photo contest. So start cleaning up your photos from Sequanona or just from the rest of the year of mushroom foraging, and think about what you might want to submit for that. So we can look at pretty pictures in the dead of winter when there's no mushrooms out. One other event, club member Serenella Linares is a naturalist at Mount Rainier Nature Center, and our DNA team has started meeting there once a month. And they've decided to do an Ask a Fun Gal open house each afternoon that they're there. So if you want to go join the DNA folks, you're welcome to do so. They get started around 10. If you're curious in sort of helping document mushrooms in great scientific detail, or if you just want to go ask mushroom questions, stop by in the afternoon while they're running their PCR and waiting for things to go through, and they're happy to just chat mushrooms. So they've got those set up every month for the rest of the year. A couple other events people might be interested in. The Northeast Mycological Federation has a foray coming up in New York, and then the Western Pennsylvania Club has one at the end of September. And two dates to save for 2024. Sequanona, I've already mentioned, will be next Labor Day weekend. And then NAMA, the North American Mycological Association, which is the association of all the sort of amateur mushroom clubs around the country, has scheduled its annual foray next year for the end of October out in Washington State. And if you have been paying attention to the mushroom world at all, you should know that the Pacific Northwest is a rich place to go mushroom hunting. So I have my eye on that one. I may make it out for that NAMA foray. So in the news, club member April Thompson just had an article published in District Fray magazine about the mushroom mania that's hit DC. So she interviewed a couple of club members who were in there, Zay, and I forget who else. As well as some of you might remember, we had a little presentation from someone who was doing a survey of folks who got interested in mushrooming during the pandemic. And she's interviewed in this article as well. So check that out in District Fray magazine. And then this was in JSTOR Daily. It's a nice little survey. It's got like little bio snippet type things of several different women of, like, I think the 19th century who were sort of naturalists before their time. And Tom did a talk recently about Beatrix Potter. I believe she's in here, and there are several other women with sort of similar stories who got captivated by mushrooms and were inspired to do a lot of science at a time that women were not doing a lot of science. So that was a cool article. People may have seen this one go by in the Post, that it's a very clickbaity title, that Janet Yellen ate magic mushrooms while she was in China. It turns out that there is a species of bolete in China that is said to be hallucinogenic if you eat it raw. People aren't quite sure why it's hallucinogenic. It doesn't have psilocybin or ibotenic acid, which is the chemical that makes fly agaric hallucinogenic. But when you cook it, it is no longer psychoactive. So, and it's like a prized edible. So she ate this mushroom that is regularly cooked and eaten as a non-psychoactive mushroom, but somebody got all excited about the fact that if she had had it raw, it would have been a magic mushroom. And there were a bunch of articles about that. And that is a good segue to this notice that we got from a scientist. I may have mentioned this last month as well. There's someone who is studying these boletes. They look like what we often call bicolor bolete. They're red on the top. They have yellow pores. That's the bicolor. And he's looking into these Chinese ones that supposedly have hallucinogenic effects and wanting to compare them to boletes in the US and sort of figure out that whole set of species in more detail. So if you find one and want to follow up, there's an email for the guy down here, Colin Domnauer. But certainly at least putting it on iNaturalist might be of help as well. And then one other that I will talk about tonight is just this series of podcasts that caught my eye on a podcast that Scientific American has that I didn't even know about, and it came up in my newsfeed. And they were actually an interesting set of 3 pieces, partly about the mycorrhizal relationships and the trading relationships with between trees and mushrooms. And partly about mapping where everything is and how those systems are working, and wondering how those relationships might change with climate change, and whether things could actually be better for some fungi and some systems might crash. So it was an interesting little set of podcasts, very much with the economics bent to some of them. I think that's all I have for this month. If you have sent me other articles, I did not get to them because of Sequinoto, but I do have them in my queue possibly for next month. So stay tuned, I guess. And with that, I will turn things over to Mitch for the ID table.